Like literally. Aiden, why we gotta play the saddest commercials on 1440 keys? I don't know. I don't think that. There we go. I'm not too sure. What? Alright. That's just gonna be good enough. I'm gonna leave the door open because it gets hot. Google Joseph Dons.
Find a walk near you at walktodefeatals.org.
Oh shit. All right, my friends. You are listening to the Bad Blonde Radio Show on News Talk KEYS 1440 AM and 98.7 FM. And today is a very good day. Chad, why is it a good day for you, buddy? This is my co-host, Chad Shook.
Well, the rains have stopped for a little while.
I'm super happy I missed them. I was gone the entire time that it was a great deluge.
It was a very wet.
Yeah, now we got mosquitoes, which is a total bummer.
Also, our brother's in town with his lovely wife and our two nephews.
I know.
Shout out to, what are their names?
Oh, shut up.
Ryan and Luke, who maybe probably are not listening, but...
No, they're definitely asleep right now at 10 a.m. As they should be. I love, my nephews are the best when they're asleep. Just kidding.
They are little tornadoes when they're awake, that is for sure.
Yeah, no, they really are. All right. Well, are you going to ask me why it's a good day for me?
I was about to.
Yeah, sure. Well, we're going to go to the beach as a family. I'm super excited about that. There's nothing better than just dunking one of my nephew's heads in the water. Just kidding. I won't do that. But why it's a good day for me, especially on the show, we are going to be talking all about the history of Volkswagen and the Volkswagen Beetle. That's right. Now we're going to cover the Nazi origins. We're also going to cover the accusations of Dr. Ferdinand Porsche taking some design ideas, not only from Tatra, but also from Joseph Gans, which am I saying his last name right? Ganz. I think that's correct. Gans. I think it's Gans. Anyways. Yeah, I mean, there was a lot of borrowing going on with that design, if you know what I mean. But I'm pretty excited about it. It's going to be a special day. If anybody has any specific questions or comments, text us them at 882-5397. Once again, I am always proud when I can say our text line properly. It's like a big pat on the back.
You did really good.
I did good. I did real good. All right, should we just jump into it? Do we have anything else to, announce?
Didn't you go on some vacation or something?
Oh, I did. That's why I was gone. Oh, thanks, Chad. Thanks for thinking of that. I did. So the last, I was working remotely from, I don't want to say Montana. Wyoming. Callie, my sister and I took a nice little visit up to Wyoming, flew into Salt Lake City, did a little road trip up there, stayed in Jackson Hole. It was fantastic. Did a lot of hiking at the Grand Teton National Park. Popped into Yellowstone for a day, which is really lovely. We saw a mama bear and 4 cubs, which was a really big deal.
Yeah, pretty cool.
Oh, it's nuts. It's totally nuts. So like a few years ago, I think it was 2018, I had done a solo road trip pretty much identical, except I tossed in 3 car museums. I didn't get to toss in those car museums during this trip, wish I had, but it's okay. Last time, I didn't see nearly as much wildlife, but the wildlife I did see, we saw, like I said, a mama bear and her 4 cubs, which is a huge deal. They were so freaking cute.
Until they maul you to death.
We didn't get out of the car. There were a lot of moron tourists that were out of their car. You're supposed to be like 100 yards away from a bear. Especially, I remember growing up, the biggest thing to worry about, not only quicksand, was also like a mama bear. Like a mama bear is supposed to be the most, aggressive animal out there.
Ever since I saw Adam Sandler get eaten to death almost by that one bear in that movie.
Which
And then he like crawled around and cried about it for the whole rest of the movie.
which movie are you talking about, Chad?
That's the bear movie.
Fair enough. I
The one where he gets eaten by the bear and then he whines about it for the whole rest of the movie.
I don't know what you're talking about. But anyways, also saw a lone wolf, saw some elk, definitely a lot of bison, one moose. Like, it was pretty glorious. It's really magical up there. Just driving around, road tripping is pretty glorious.
It looked really pretty.
It is. Do you want to figure out what that movie is, Chad?
It's the only movie where the dude gets eaten by the bear, and then the whole rest of the movie he's complaining about getting eaten by the bear and stuff.
If anybody knows,
Crawling around.
If anybody knows, I have no idea what Chad's talking about. Text us at 882-5397. All right, let's dive into it. Enough of your movie talk. We're going to talk all about the Volkswagen. The people's car. All right, so let's paint a little picture for the listeners out there, okay? It is post-World War I, and Germany is what you would call an unprosperous place, all right? It's a little rough. And when you have a downtrodden country, sometimes the wrong folks weasel into authority. And that wrong guy, guys, was Hitler. Did you know Hitler went to art school and was like a failed art school student? He wanted to be an artist, and instead he just became a murderous dictator. How about that?
Could you imagine being the teacher? Hitler's teacher?
Oh, what
You could
guilt!
have just gave him an A and
Oh my God.
changed the world.
Literally, we need to look that up. Who was Hitler's art teacher that scorned him so bad that he decided he needed to ruin?
To be a big jerk.
Yeah, no kidding. All right, so like I said, Hitler failed at art school and he decided to cause global strife. Really. Anyways, it's the 1930s and Hitler is in charge and he wants a car for the people. A car that would fit a young German family, be reliable, and be cheap. Cheap enough for the common man. Now, what they thought was the typical young German family was a family of four. The parents and two children. We'll get to that in a second because he had some specifics. Now, side note, I do want to say Hitler's out here creating specifications for a car, this and that. He never learned to drive. He didn't know how to drive then, and he would not in his future learn how to drive ever.
You don't need to.
I guess not.
Somebody else will drive you.
Yeah, that's a good point. He was also the guy behind the creation of autobahn, which is super interesting. Once again, somebody who never learned to drive, creating demanding specifications for car creation and also creating the autobahn. All right. So Hitler wants a car that can fit 4 people. He wants it to travel up to 60 miles per hour and use no more than 7 liters of gas. All right. Now, however, not one of the car manufacturers in Germany at the time had any desire to create a small car. They didn't want to create a car for the working man because at that time the working man wasn't purchasing cars. And it's interesting because they obviously they were not as forward as Henry Ford because that was his whole thing. You create a car that the working class can purchase, and that's where the money is. And he was not wrong, all right? But at the time, only rich people had cars, and that was the only consumer. So the project was not desirable for any German car manufacturer whatsoever. And, did you have something to say?
I'm trying to... It wasn't called the People's Car at first.
No.
It was somebody's love bug, joyful...
It was
something weird.
It was the KDF.
It was something like Joy Fun Car or something.
It was Strength Through Joy, which means Kraft durch Freude. And I took German like through two years before I got kicked out of high school. And
That's always
I
a
don't
good
know.
language.
Yeah, I know there were way too many der, D's, and Dosses, but I believe it's pronounced Kraft durch Freude. All right, that's what the company. So, well, why? Backtracking just a smidge. So none of the regular car manufacturers in Germany wanted to touch this with a stick. And that's when Hitler went ahead and decided that this was going to be a company created. I think he went to like the German government labor union or something like that. But it was basically going to be a car manufacturer run by the German government. And that's when he decided to come up with this super clever name, Strength Through Joy.
I don't know how clear that really is.
No.
It sounds like one of those when you get like the Chinese interpretation writing on the package that you buy. It's like,
Oh yeah.
fun, good toy,
Yeah.
Spider-Man.
Happy.
Yeah.
Toy time. Yeah, I know it's. And the funny thing is well, they ended up. I think the city is Wolfsburg, so it was the city ended up that this manufacturing plant landed in was the city of strength through joy in Wolfsburg or Wallenberg. I don't know. I don't remember the exact city name, but like what a mouthful. All right, so Hitler wants this car. Just to backtrack, if you're just now tuning in, Hitler wants this car that can be afforded by the working man. None of the German auto manufacturers want to touch this with a stick, all right? They don't think they're going to make money. At this time in Germany, only rich people are purchasing cars, so they don't see that, all right? I do want to state that Hitler was a big fan of Henry Ford. Like, and he copied a couple of, he copied a few of Henry Ford's techniques, like he put the manufacturing plant near a river or canal of some sort so that shipping of the cars could be easy, etc.
Henry Ford was a real forward thinker.
He
at
was.
the time, so he's not. If you're trying to produce a car, it's not a bad person to emulate.
Honestly, yeah, no. Oh well. That being said, only the time that he was successful, because Henry Ford actually was not successful for like 10 times, 15 times. He kept going bankrupt.
Don't fall on those times.
Just you know how they say, what is it? What is that saying where it's like, doesn't matter how many times you fail, it's just practice. Well, Henry Ford failed a lot. And at one point, the Dodge brothers owned like, I don't know, 50% of Ford at one point. Funny. Anyways, back to Hitler. All right, so Hitler was a big fan of Henry Ford, and he was trying to basically copy this so that the German working class could have a mode of transportation. And decided the government was just going to go ahead and run this. Now, who did he pick? Who did he pick to go ahead and run the Strength Through Joy manufacturing plant to create the Beetle?
Ferdinand Porsche.
Yes, he did. Now, at the time, Dr. Ferdinand, and I'll say Porsche is the proper pronunciation, but I've been saying Porsche since I was like 8, and so you'll hear me say Porsche.
We live in South Texas.
Yeah.
Born and raised, so.
That's what I like to do. Aiden, are you giving me the old wrap up? Does that mean I got 30 seconds or 10 seconds? I'm just kidding. Oh, you give me 30. Thanks, Aiden. Aiden's not hungover, guys, if you're listening. Look, he was fresh as a spring daisy this morning. Just pressing buttons and directing me all the way. All right, guys, stay tuned to the Bad Blonde Radio Show. We are going to continue talking all about the history of Volkswagen, its Nazi origins, and its consequential becoming of a cultural icon of the hippies.
I think the most sold vehicle, one line ever.
I think the Mini Cooper beat it out. Anyways, y'all stay tuned. We'll continue. I think the Mini Cooper won it out.
No way. The Beetle sold 21 million cars.
Google the Mini Cooper.
But the Beetle was sold so longer.
No, the Mini's still being sold. Yeah, did you know that? Can you hear that, Chad? Christian Griping Curl is the reason for World War II. That's funny.
725,000 million. 21 million Volkswagen Beetles. They've run from 53 to 20, and this was the air-cooled ones.
Yeah.
2010, I think.
Most selling car in the world.
Ninth? No.
Most sold.
Run the streets of downtown Corpus Christi and help raise funds for Bikes for Kids. The Stash Dash will be Saturday, June 19th.
1938 to 2003. They sold the air-cooled Beetles in South America and other places. So they stopped doing it here. 21 million Beetles sold worldwide.
Yeah, I guess you're right.
And it was all the longest single platform. If you get a chance, you can jump into the Thing and all the dune buggies and stuff that have also emerged from it.
Yeah.
And then I have some really funny jokes.
Yeah, because the whole Leonardo DiCaprio movie joke wasn't funny.
It was not supposed to.
Nobody understood that you said Adam Sandler.
I know.
So you were literally just let people into a maze that had no ending.
I was supposed to make them dance.
Don't do that again.
Oh, okay. Don't forget to mention competition.
The music's on.
Don't forget to mention comp.
All right. Hello, my friends. You're back listening to the Bad Blonde Radio Show on News Talk KUIS 1440 AM and 98.7 FM, Corpus Christi, Texas. And if you're just now tuning in, guys, it's been pretty fun. We are talking all about the history of the Volkswagen and the Volkswagen Beetle. Naturally, we started with old Hitler, failed artist turned criminal dictator, who wanted to have, his whole goal behind the Volkswagen was he wanted a cheap, reliable vehicle that could transport working man Germans. And where he ended up going was to the rock star engineer of the time, who he decided to put in charge of the manufacturing plant called Strength Through Joy. I'm not kidding. Hitler decided to run this car manufacturing plant by the government and call it Strength Through Joy. There's irony in there, a lot of irony in there. Anyway, so who he put in charge of this was Dr. Ferdinand Porsche. That's right. He was the rock star engineer of the time. He'd been with Mercedes-Benz engineering the SSK. And if you know what I'm talking about, the SSK was one of the, it was the fastest car of its time. And it held on to that time for a really long time. Chad, have you seen the SSK? You don't, it's beautiful. So I got to see an SSK on, in the Netherlands at the Loman Museum. They're beautiful cars, and also their history, their race history is a big deal. And that's why at the time, the rock star engineer was Dr. Ferdinand Porsche. Also, weird fact that I can't help but talk about because there's a lot of intertwined history on this one. Ferdinand was, Dr. Porsche was the chauffeur to, early in Ferdinand Porsche's career, he was the chauffeur to Archduke Ferdinand.
Franz Ferdinand.
Yeah.
The band.
Basically, Ferdinand's assassination was the first domino of World War II. There's just too much history intermingled right there.
Yeah, there's a lot of weirdness. Hitler's art teacher, and then Ferdinand driving around.
Hey, Aiden, what was the name of Hitler's art teacher? Good job. Cool. I have no idea. Thank you to the 2 years of German I took in high school.
I don't know if Aiden's on the radio, so it was Christian Garpentour.
I think you're on the radio, right, when you talk? Okay, good.
Okay.
Great. Anyways, we can thank that art teacher for failing Hitler and causing global chaos for...
Thanks a lot, Grapen, plural.
Yeah, no, seriously. All right, so Dr. Porsche has been handed this task. He has been handed this task to create the working man's car. Like I already said, basically Hitler just wanted it to fit 4 people, which is what he thought was the ideal German family at the time. Strange. Anyways.
That makes sense. I mean, it could fit 5. 3 in the back if you needed.
Why I thought that where my mind went was strange wasn't he having these weird German summer camps where he would send youth off and get them impregnated? So that, do you remember that?
He would only get them impregnated twice.
Good point. I'm not too sure. So anyways, back to the design, because Porsche did not exactly create this from scratch at all. So back then it was probably more common for car designers and manufacturers to share designs. Borrow is actually the word I wanted to use. To borrow designs. Was it right? No. But I mean, there was countries dividing. It was, it was a lot easier to take somebody's design and not get caught for it. And Ferdinand was accused of stealing much of the Tatra design, which was a car manufacturer in Czechoslovakia. It's a really neat car. Today we're probably going to end up talking about two, and just slightly digressing into two cars that have the center headlight, the 3 in total headlights, center headlight. The Tatra and the Tucker both had that. The Beetle would not take that on, probably because, they were trying to keep it as cheap as possible, and that extra headlight was more money, that's for sure. But basically, Dr. Ferdinand Porsche stole, if anybody's out there by their computer, Google Tatra, all right? Definitely, it would be later on proven, I'm talking like after World War II, you know what I mean? Because Germany would invade Czechoslovakia. Like, oh, you have a problem with us stealing your car design? Take this. We're going to invade your land. Now, also something really interesting was this, and this is a digression, but it also, it plays a part right now. So it plays a part in the time period of this, all right? The Beetle comes out, and the way it looks is highly similar to the Tatra, and very, very similar to a prototype that Joseph Gans had created. Joseph Gans was out of Hungary, and he's got such a fascinating story that I could literally we could do a radio show on just him, all right? So when he first started out, he was super clever, super smart guy. He created this prototype that basically looks identical to the Beetle, all right? But he was already causing waves. Like, nobody liked Joseph Gans because he was an editor-in-chief of the Motor Critic. And at that time, his big point of contention, what he was getting up on his soapbox was the car manufacturers of the day were making these huge clunky cars, they sucked up gas, only the rich could afford them, and they were also dangerous. And so he was off there, every new car that was coming out, he was super critical about it. And so he made enemies very high up in the automotive world in Germany, all right? And later that would bite him in the rear because he was Jewish, and when when Hitler put out anti-Semitic laws, Joseph Gans already had a bullseye on his back. And so the higher-ups in Germany, the Gestapo arrested him in 1933 on falsified charges of blackmail in the automotive industry, which was basically they were false. He would later be released, and he would flee Germany in 1934. That was actually the same year that Porsche was assigned to create the Beetle.
It's a good thing he fled. It's interesting that the German people really didn't get a taste of the Beetle per se when it came out.
Not to start. No,
yeah,
you're right.
Because right when they really came out, World War II happened, and I don't know if we want to go there yet, but
oh yeah.
And then we bombed the factory, and there was really no Beetles until after World War II was done.
Yeah,
and they were mainly produced for Allied Axis soldiers
100%
to cruise around Europe and everything. So the German people never really got the cool Beetle. Right.
Not to start with. So I think it was right when they 200 of the KDF wagon, the Strength of Joy wagon, were produced and given only to Nazi officials. And then, just like Chad said, they started making all the efforts went to the military effort, and
then their brand new Beetle factory got bombed by us. And
yeah,
I think so. The German people really never got the true benefit of the Beetle. It kind of sucks for them, right?
Not till maybe later, not till maybe the 60s or so.
I just want to give a shout out to Ryan again.
Oh, our nephew wake up. Hey Ryan, hey Luke. It's Monster Caitlin. All right, so back to that. Now like Chad said, the shining manufacturing plant that Hitler created totally got bombed. All right. And when the war was over, the Allied forces went in, the British went in, and they were like, what is this? They found the original production line parts and equipment, to which they decided, we could probably Oh, Aiden, were you giving me the old break it off sign and I didn't pay attention?
Oh no, that's just the hard out.
Oh, okay. You know, I don't pay attention to this stuff. All right, guys, stay tuned listening to the Bad Blonde Radio Show. We're going to talk all about the Volkswagen plant post World War II. Yeah, no, if you look at this, Joseph Gons, it was like super fascinating.
Yeah, we were going to places that you shouldn't be. I'm in charge.
Because you did a lot. Let me see your notes.
It says here, I gotta do this.
Is that it?
It looks like a pregnant roller skate.
Solid. Your notes are just jokes.
I have notes. How do you think I know all the other stuff?
What's in your cup?
Water. No, I have real notes. That's how I knew what about.
Could we have talked that long? The music just went out. Hey, Aiden!
No. You just turned off. Anyway, you can go on with the Beetle. The new Beetles are pretty boring and crappy. We can talk about them a little. I don't care.
Yeah, y'all let you talk about it.
I don't really want to. They're crappy.
Straight up crap.
There's plenty on the regular Beetle.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was, I believe it was the longest running car, most sold single platform car.
That's a good stat.
It's crazy that 2003 you could have bought a Beetle. You could, I don't know if you can get them over here because me and Dad were talking
Was
about
it in Mexico?
South America, Mexico,
Yeah.
some parts of Europe and stuff.
Yeah.
But that would be super cool to buy like a 2003
Yeah.
Beetle.
Yeah. It was the Type 1.
I think they were.
Yeah.
No rust or anything, brand new, nice Beetle.
That would have been pretty dope. There's some of them out there still. Microphone smells bad.
Yeah, I wanna
Usually
bring a
it
spray.
doesn't happen.
I want to bring a spray that's.
Well, this is the first time it smelled like I was all. Kind of made me start to gag a little bit, and I was all, keep it together! Keep it together!
Why even do it this alcohol thing?
Oh, yeah, give me one of those.
I gotta do my friend.
You give me two. Give me one. Now I don't want to put your juice on this juice. Yeah, give me a brand new one, bro. I'm just gonna do that. What if I just leave it like this?
Okay. Yeah, so it's interesting that the radio's not noise, but the German people never even got the Beetle.
Yeah, well,
It was, like,
not till like
really-
later, I think, right?
Well, after the Allied forces and everything.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Well,
they never even got the benefit of Das People's car.
Das, the people's car. The strength through joy.
Cristiano's construction projects typically
Did Ryan and them hear us?
but this project's
Lots
pipeline
of
is about
things
to
that
burst.
I want to hear his name again. And
Indeed can help them hire
Mm.
Indeed you do. When you sponsor a job, you immediately get your short list of
I got some
candidates.
jokes. Mainly I
Search
spent my
things
time
on Indeed
researching,
and your job
making
criteria.
dumb jokes.
Visit Indeed.com/credit.
And this is why I want to have a third person on.
Terms and conditions.
I have plenty. I was going. Longest running was pretty.
So I talked to Dotson. He wants to come in and do the chord. I got his cell phone number to talk about that. That would be pretty dope. The chord is fascinating. Do you think he answers text messages or is it just a cell phone? I'm gonna ask Aiden. Aiden! Aiden!
Reach us at our new number.
He's playing air guitar right now.
Yeah, they mentioned competition.
That's
Could they stop sponsoring us?
82-397.
Oh, okay. Don't mention.
All right, my friends. You are back listening to the Bad Blonde Radio Show on News Talk KEYS 1440 AM and 98.7 FM, Corpus Christi, Texas. And I got my co-host Chad Shook in the studio, and we are talking all about the history of Volkswagen and the Beetle. All right, we've covered its Nazi origins, in which Hitler, failed artist, decided he wanted a car for the working man. And we've already talked about his hiring of Dr. Ferdinand Porsche. I like to say Porsche, guys. I know the correct pronunciation is Porsche, but I'm from South Texas, like I've already said. And how Dr. Porsche stole designs not only from Tatra, Czechoslovakia, but most definitely from Joseph Gans. Now, they did prove that he stole the designs from Tatra in the court of law, but poor Joseph Gans, who actually ended up dying in obscurity after he escaped from the Nazis, didn't have anything proved. It was under dispute. But if you look at them, guys, if you got your computer near you, go ahead and Google Tatra and also Google Joseph Gans. Because if you look at both of those, you will understand that in no shape or form was the Beetle a creation, a total creation, and just total design creation from Porsche. All right, that's for sure.
Everybody was trying to make a vehicle that looks like a pregnant roller skate. Huh?
I know that is what they look like. All right, now I digress a bit. So we've already covered that. We also, Hitler decided to start World War II. So the creation of the Beetle was totally halted. It also wasn't called the Beetle at the time. It was called the KDF wagon, which stood for Strength Through Joy. In English, how do you say that in German? Kraft durch Freude wagen. Yeah, so not doesn't just come off the tongue. It doesn't ring off the, doesn't have that easy of a ring to it. That's for sure. Now, World War II happened. We bombed that manufacturing plant pretty hard. The end of World War II, the Allied forces come in. The British find the original manufacturing production line parts, all right? And they decide, hey, should we do with that? We should auction them off to fellow British auto manufacturers. However, nobody wanted to touch it. Nobody wanted to touch it with a stick. No automotive manufacturers wanted those production plant
That is so
parts.
British.
Yeah, no, thank you.
No, not today.
No. Hey there. Got Mr. Bell in the house walking by, distracting me. I'm just kidding. So that happens, and the British are like, what the heck do we do with this manufacturing plant, and these parts?
And the one thing they didn't think about is the Beetles back during World War II actually had really good gas mileage.
Yeah.
They could go all the way from Berlin to Warsaw on one tank.
Wow.
That was a joke.
Oh, I didn't get it. Why is that a joke?
Because they were on a tank.
Oh, bump. Shh.
I got more.
Get it.
I have more.
I get it. Go ahead and get your jokes out of your system, Dad.
Okay, I have one more.
Let's hear it.
Yeah, so this one guy, he brought this 73 Beetle in. And I said, yeah, he called in and said, hey, man, I got this 73 Beetle, but the engine's missing. And I said, okay, well, you can go ahead and bring it in. We'll check it out. Maybe it needs spark plugs or, valve adjustment, a tune-up or something. So we parked out front and opened the hood and was staring at it. So I figured I'd go out and help the guy. And I went over, talked to him, and I concurred. The engine was missing. And then I told him to open the trunk. Hey!
Nailed it.
Bam.
For those of you listening that are unfamiliar with the actual VW Beetle, it is in the back.
Yes.
Just like most of the early Porsches. That's for sure. All right. So, good job, Chad.
That's all I got.
That was a fantastic joke.
Thank you.
Those were really good jokes.
Thank you.
All right. So, back to the story, guys. Back to the history. Now, they don't know what to do. The British are like, what in the heck do we do with these production parts? You know what I mean? There were something should happen to them. So they decide to go ahead and run it anyways. All right. They give the reins over to ex-Opel executive Heinz Nordhoff. Now I wonder what you know what, I'd be curious to see what Opel was doing at this time. You know, how long did Opel stay around? They produced some pretty cool cars.
They did have some interesting cars.
Yeah. Well, all right. So Heinz Nordhoff has basically handed this manufacturing plant in shambles, but he does manage to turn it around. And something to keep in mind, at this time in Europe, it was a pretty rough spot. Like everywhere, roads were destroyed by bombs, folks were still trying to get back on their feet, and most manufacturers viewed America as the golden ticket for sales.
Yeah, there's probably no resources around.
Yeah.
No metals, no much of anything to use.
Yeah.
For this, so I'm sure as a manufacturer, very tough time.
Yeah, Europe at post World War I or World War II, rough spot. So they put their eyes on the States, which makes sense. Like we said, the first few attempts totally fell through. All right, Volkswagen came over. Their CEO Heinz Nordhoff was like, "Hey, American consumers, you interested in this goofy-looking little car?"
But don't you think it would be weird? It's weird also that a lot of what became very popular in America after World War II was what a lot of the servicemen were influenced by over in Europe. So they
100%.
probably were very influenced by the Beetle, which probably helped its popularity.
Yeah, I think so. And you have a definite point on that. A lot of the folks came over, like Chad said, what they used while they were in the service, they definitely tried to find. That's the same with the Harley Davidson WLA, that motorcycle was used, and there was a surplus after the war, and so there were that's how the birth of the chopper really came about. And it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool to think about where, the domino effect of automotive popularity came from, and definitely that's a start.
So that probably did help the Beetle, but then the hippies came.
Oh, the hippies really helped.
Really helped.
The hippies really helped. Now,
thanks, Mom and Dad.
Seriously. So, like I said, the first few attempts for Volkswagen to bust into the States market failed. All right. Now, also something to keep in mind, at the time, the Volkswagen only had 24 horsepower, and that was not exactly attractive to the U.S. market, all right? And also at this time, so it's 1949, and the most popular car in the States is the 1949 Ford. It was the first all-new car introduced by one of the big three post-World War II. And don't get me started, because it wouldn't have been the Tucker. The 1948 Tucker should have been the first all-new American car introduced to the public, but the big three did some total Atlas Shrugged type of crap and brought him, basically put the kibosh on that whole project. I'm still mad about that. We should do a radio show on it. I'm just going to digress real fast, guys. The Tucker was a super innovative vehicle, not only for safety, but also mechanically. And it was produced by this gentleman named Preston Tucker, a maverick, an inventor, all this. And when he came out with this car, it scared the big three. And so they threw legal teams, they paid lobbyists and up in Congress, they did a lot of things to sabotage him. And that's why that's why you're not driving a Tucker right now.
Stifled innovation through government.
I'm still mad about it. I don't know if y'all can tell by my tone. Anyways, we'll go back. I just needed to bring that up a little bit. So the 1949 Ford is the most popular car in the States. It has 90 horsepower. So if you're looking at a car that has 90 horsepower as opposed to 24 horsepower, it's just not immediately attractive. However, eventually, a year or so goes by, and in 1950, a few dealerships start to take on the Beetle, and it starts to sell. And why is that? Well, it was cheap as heck. Super cheap, very reliable.
Not much to it at all.
Yes, right? That was also an attractive point. You could fix it.
Yeah, I mean, that's really a beautiful thing about the Beetle it's just a nothing to it car. It's
that's coming from a mechanic, guys. Chad works on Beetles pretty frequently.
Yeah, so just not much to it. Not much you have to do, not much maintenance. Almost most of the maintenance is probably something anybody could do with not a ton of tools. So
right,
they were really just a base car that would get you around.
Yeah.
No frills, but I thought that looked cool. I like
the looks too. I like the looks. I like the simplicity. And I can see how it just took a little while for folks to get used to the option of buying a Beetle. And then it went out. Well, how much did it cost at the time? I felt like it was like super cheap. Yeah, I don't remember the exact numbers.
and they could float.
What?
Some of the early ones for a little while. They said
Oh, okay.
they had an
That's super
advertisement
funny.
say it can float for a little while.
You know, that's funny that you're glad you brought that up, because the the like 1950s and 1960s Beetle advertisements were actually something that we covered in my advertising 318J course.
They also
at
said when
UT.
they break down, you can push them. They roll easy. They had some interesting advertisements.
Yeah, they were very. It was unique. It was something that the general public hadn't already seen before, coming from like the stiff coats of the 50s. Yeah, that's funny. That's bringing back a lot of memories of covering them in advertising. That's fun. All right. So also we got. I mean, at this point, we also got to talk about why they were popular for dune buggies.
Yeah, and they also, that platform they made the thing off of the Beetle platform.
Yes, they did.
Dune buggies have been huge, and kit cars. I mean, that's probably one of the most prolific platforms used for kit cars, and it was probably due to price and the numbers out there. The Beetle was actually, I believe, it was the longest running, most produced single platform car. The Beetle has been sold from 1938 to 2003.
Hot.
Now,
Damn.
I'm not talking the new Beetle in America.
Yeah.
I'm talking the original old Beetle.
That's pretty
Maybe
trippy.
It's a Super Beetle or whatever. But in South America,
Yeah.
Mexico and stuff, they made the Beetle, and parts of Europe up until 2003. How cool would that be to score like a 2003 Beetle
Yeah.
from Mexico? I don't think they'll let you import it in because of emissions and safety regulations.
Yeah, we did ruin a bunch of stuff with that.
Yeah, we did. But I would totally love to like score a 2003 Beetle. How cool would that be?
That'd be dope. I'll be all about it.
Or in 2003 when it was brand new.
Yeah. How cool would that be? Kind of makes me want to get on the old eBay, take a little look at what we got going on. All right, it appears that Aiden is giving me the old wrap it up sign, guys. We are going to be back to finish the illustrious story of the Volkswagen and the Volkswagen Beetle. Stay tuned to the Bad Blonde Radio Show.
I've got a question for you. Do you have the all-new 1440
When did the
We've made it bigger and better just for you. Not only can you
when did we stop having the Type 1 in the States?
you can now access the latest weather and traffic information in real time.
I don't know.
The all-new 1440 Keys smartphone app available now.
I was trying to look at all the types. There was, they went to a type 2 or thing. Might end up running through a lot of stuff.
Is yours that loud?
It's not loud when I'm listening. I don't know why it comes out.
Yeah.
Here's that loud? I can't hear. I have more jokes.
Okay, so I think they stopped 79 and then started, at least in the U.S.
We're fortunate that we can give our daughters everything they need to grow and learn, but not every child can focus on classes and play dates.
Nearly 13 million kids in the U.S. face hunger, and that's 1 in 6. School lunch might be their only meal each day, but it's heartbreaking to imagine any child going to bed hungry.
Shh.
We're dreaming of a perfect day where play and just be kids without worrying about what
No, the type 1 through 4 is the same thing. They just changed up some stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Each year, the Feeding America network of food banks rescues billions of pounds of good food that would have gone to waste. That food is given to families and children in need. Being a kid should be about doing things that make an ordinary day extraordinary. Learning to play an instrument, building a sandcastle, hosting tea parties. Hunger should never be.
And then they made some new Beetles that were little tricks. And they only ran. They stopped making the Beetle in 2019. The new Beetle.
That was a short break. All right. Hello, my friends. You are back listening to the Bad Blonde Radio Show on News Talk KUIS, 1440 AM and 98.7 FM, Corpus Christi, Texas. I got my co-host Chad Shook in the studio, and we have been, if you're just now tuning in, we have been talking all about the history of Volkswagen and the Beetle. All right, and I'll fill you in just a little bit. Just a quick recap. Although honestly, my recaps are never quick. they're like a clean 5 minutes. All right, so how this all started, we had Hitler, who was just taking us down the road to World War II. He wants a people's car. He wants a car that the average German family, the working man, can afford, all right? And he goes to Dr. Ferdinand Porsche, and asks him to create a car of specific dimensions, all right? He wants it air-cooled. He wants to fit 4 people. Basically, that's what he thinks the ideal German family should look like: a father, a mother, a daughter, and a son.
And a leaky oil, a car that leaks a lot of oil.
Yeah, although I don't think he intended on that. And so he asks Porsche to do that. Now, he does not create this all by himself, all right? There, in the court of law, it was proven that he did borrow is the nice word for stealing. He did take the design cues from Tatra out of Czechoslovakia. And if you aren't familiar with Tatra, I'd encourage you to go ahead and Google them. Pretty cool car. Has a center headlight, super innovative, good cars. A neat part of automotive history for sure. If you want to see one of them in person, there is the Lane Motor Museum in Nashville. That's where I saw a lot of them myself. All right, so Ferdinand comes out. They start creating them. They create about 200 that all go to Nazi officials before World War II breaks out. And they turn that manufacturing plant into the war, basically over to the war effort. So the Beetle stops being created. We bombed that manufacturing plant and we won World War II, thank God. All right, so the Allied forces come over. They find in the rubble, they find still existing production line parts, try to sell them off. Nobody wants them. So they go ahead and start running that manufacturing plant themselves. They hire on ex-executive from Opel, Heinz Nordhoff, and they finally pop into the U.S. market. Eventually, all the hippies and anybody that wants a cheap and reliable car gets their hands on it. And I think that's where we ended the last segment, right?
Yep.
All right. Actually, we were going to start talking about their hype as a dune buggy.
Yeah, they were such a inexpensive and easy to mess with car, and the numbers started coming up, so they got turned into dune buggies.
Yeah, they basically
cars and all types of stuff.
Take off the body and just throw on a fiberglass something or other, and then just hit the sand. Yeah,
and I don't think you could do that with a lot of other cars, so that's pretty cool.
Yeah, no, you can't. That's for sure.
And also being a dune buggy or whatever, having the rear engine actually really helped them put all the weight on the rear tires.
Yeah.
Where the drive is and everything. And so that made them really cool too. So like cool sand rails and everything.
What do you mean sand rails?
Sand rail was like a Volkswagen Beetle, but it had a really longer front end. Kind of looked like a drag car. But
yeah, no, I know
sand.
Exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, real light in the front. Light. Very light in the front.
Why are you saying that like you've crashed one?
Well, I've driven some fast, and they're like, they don't have any weight in the front.
Did you almost take air?
Well, it's just the front end, you're going fast, and the engine's in the back, and the transmission and everything's in the back.
Yeah.
And if you put a big old front on it, and the front tires are way up there or whatever, you really don't have any weight. A lot of them had to put weight up front, because if not, you're trying to turn, and the car just keeps going straight.
You're like,
yeah.
Oh, that's scary.
Yeah.
Do we have any dune buggies in the shop right now? I feel like we did.
We do. We have a dune buggy, like a later, maybe a 73 or something.
Yeah. So, and also, like you were saying, once they stopped making that in the States, South America continued on.
Yeah, and parts of Europe kept making the Beetle. Awesome.
Should we finally talk about the new Beetle?
If you want to, I'm not a fan of the new
I'm
Beetle.
not a fan either at
They
all.
started doing the new Beetle in 1997. I was kind of excited at first because it was like, yeah.
Yes.
And it looked kind of cool. It looked kind of like the Beetle, but then just the quality. The interiors in those cars were probably the worst interiors of any car ever. Just fell apart.
Yuck. Yeah.
And these were also front wheel drive, water cooled engines. They had a variety. You had diesel. They ranged from like a 1.4 liter. Apparently, you could even get the 3.2 VR6 in them, which is a pretty cool engine. I was very, very unimpressed. I actually worked for Volkswagen for a little bit.
Oh yeah, you did have a stint at our local
and
Volkswagen.
I was able to work on some of the new Beetle and the new Beetle. And I was not impressed with either of them.
All around?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I've had friends that had the first new Beetle.
It's like you want to love them. You do.
I wanted to, but the quality was it was garbage. Honestly.
So I detailed a lot of cars when I was like 16, 17, which was good money for my age. I loved that. And I was real peaceful band, play some music, wax on, wax off. But one of my regular clients had a new Beetle. And the interior was just disgusting. Like everything was sticky. Like it was just decaying already, and it's brand new.
Yeah, the interiors on those were probably, I think, one of the worst interiors of a vehicle, and it's
Shoddy.
a shame.
Yeah,
that
no,
Volkswagen
seriously.
took probably a vehicle that you will see if the government allows, or Beetles will still be here in 100 years. People will be driving Beetles. They won't be driving new Beetles. That's for sure.
Yeah, no
but
kidding.
They'll be driving a 65 or whatever.
Yeah, seriously.
So Volkswagen really did a bad job on the new Beetles. It'd be cool if they could come back and redeem themselves somehow with something nice, but I don't know if it's possible anymore.
I mean, yeah, I'm not too sure about that either. But yeah, no, I remember, I'd be going into, cleaning the interior, and it was just like, I was like, what the heck is going on with this stuff? It's just sticky, it scrapes. So like any tiny, like a fingernail can make an indent and like take off some of the plastic. Do you think it was just that like the materials that were being used were just that janky?
There's a lot of car companies now that are trying to put this rubbery cushion over a hard plastic.
And it's just not working out.
And the oils in people's hands. I mean, I've seen them on Maserati, Ferraris, BMWs. And I don't know who these engineers are who are designing this, because clearly it doesn't last even a year, and then it just gets really sticky on your hands.
I hate the sticky thing.
Yeah, and I don't know what they're doing, because then the little rubber cushiony part they put on just starts falling apart, so it looks terrible.
It looks horrible.
And they're like, well, you need a whole door panel that's $500. It's like, whoa.
Well, that's probably the point, is that they're creating this. They're using this substance that they know has a life, like an expiration date.
I don't understand it. They use it on radio knobs.
Yeah.
You don't want to replace your radio all the time.
Some of the Mini Coopers, I feel like I've encountered that sticky part too.
But one thing, I don't know if we talked about that. We probably did, but there were over, I think it was 21 million air-cooled Beetles.
That's a
sold
lot
from their production, from I think 1938 to 2003.
That's crazy.
Quite impressive.
Like you said, I was trying to debate Chad that there was the Mini Cooper, but I actually think he has me one that it's the Beetle. They produced a lot, and they had a long run too, but no, not as nearly. I think it was like 1959 or 60 was the first year of the Cooper. So I think you are. I will go ahead and give Chad the win on this one. He is correct that the Beetle is probably the.
I mean, that's just amazing. From 38 to 2003.
Yeah.
Same platform, basically. Changed up the engines a little bit. The design, very little, but that is quite impressive.
That just goes to show, guys, if you borrow other people's designs, you might just create the longest running or most produced vehicle out there.
Apparently they borrowed for the better.
I guess they did borrow for the better. That's funny. Oh, I hear the music. That means our time is up. Stay tuned and tune in to the Bad Blonde Radio Show on News Talk KUYS every Saturday at 10 a.m. Good job. Good job.
You're welcome for coming up with the idea and carrying the show.
You're silly. You're silly. All right, so are you ready for the beach?
I don't know, I'm ready for a nap.
What time did you go to bed?
I tried to go to bed at like 12, but I couldn't sleep at all.
You need to take melatonin, sir. It's not bad. Huh?
Something. Yeah,
So
the
you
Beetle,
see-
that is crazy.
Do you hear how the music's still playing? Does that mean I had that much time to keep going?
That's good.
I don't know. Curious.